Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. All right, one of the things I want to do for you, we're going to be getting back into this about inflation and some of the effects there, and also some strategies to share. Also want to make available for the first 10 callers to my office this morning a free retirement income analysis. That means a comprehensive financial plan. You just call the office, 615-376-5325. Debbie's standing by to take your information. She'll send you out a checklist and a checklist of things to bring to the appointment with me. I'm going to show you how to maximize your Social Security income, how to minimize taxes when you're taking money out of your portfolio, and in general with regard to income both leading up to retirement and into retirement. It's not just what you make, it's what you keep. So if you can reduce taxes, that's a great way to keep more money in your pocket. And there's some good strategies that allow you. If you've got debt and you're thinking, I'm going to pull a lot of money out of my retirement accounts and pay off this debt, let me show you ways to do that you can reduce the tax burden in doing so. Avoid penalties, understanding how the tax code works and using it to your advantage, which is that's what we all want to do, right? Is make sure that we pay the least amount of tax that we're legally required to pay. The next part is your investments, how to reduce volatility so you don't lose money, because that's another way that right? You got to keep the money. If it doesn't matter if you make a large return and then 2 years later you lose it again in a bear market or a downturn or in the way that you've got your investments structured. What value is that? How about we show you strategies where you can lock in those gains, so if the market turns on you, you're going to be protected. These are hedging strategies that and I'm going to also share with you in that appointment with me. So again, first 10 callers to my office, 615-376-5325. You get to come in and see me. I'm going to do a free comprehensive financial plan. It's not just a free consultation. I'm going to do a plan for you, which means you're going to have to bring some things and you're going to be willing to participate in this process. Take it a little time. People, there was a study that said people spend more time planning for a 2-week vacation than they do for the 20 to 30 years they're going to spend in retirement. Let's take that time so that those years are great years that you're going to enjoy, and you're going to be able to maintain your standard of living and quality of life. Also, for the first 10 callers, again, she'll send you out a checklist of things to bring to your appointment with me. She'll help you with getting that scheduled, and she'll send you a free copy of my book, 7 Steps to Financial Freedom in Retirement. All right. One of the things I'm going to share with you, go to inflation. Before I do, I'm going to catch this call, and then I'm going to show you this chart on how inflation works so you can get a good idea of that. So this is Bill. Bill, welcome to the Retirement Report.
Yes. Is this Hank?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I live in Cookville,
okay,
and I got your book about a year ago, free book, and then the little brochure, Understanding Living Trust.
Right.
Okay. I kind of have a unique situation here, but anyway, in Cookville, I was looking for in the phone book for a lawyer that handled living trust.
Right.
And when I walked into the office, there was a lady sitting there at a window, and I told her what I was interested in, and she said, yep, it's $300 an hour. Well, I thought that was kind of a turnoff, so I'm looking for somebody else.
Right,
So
absolutely.
Anyway, my situation is such that I plan on going back to Michigan. I'm married. My wife's staying here, but I have a home worth about $100,000 on about an acre and a half.
Okay.
How do I guess I'll get an appointment with your office in the next month or so.
Okay.
This is going to all go down in the spring, but would a living trust that I could I put that in a living, or we put that, just the property and the contents and the land in a living trust at this time?
Mm-hmm.
It would be a revocable one. And so could I add more later between me being in Michigan and her in Tennessee?
Right. So let's say if you've got one property, in fact, a great reason to have a revocable living trust is if you're going to have property in different states, you could end up with probate in different, 2 different probates as well.
Yes.
So with the trust, you can avoid that. And yes, you can put property in now. You can add property in later. If you sell one property and buy another property, you can, swap them out. That's not a problem either.
Okay.
So yes, you can do all of that. And by the way, I can introduce you to an attorney that'll charge you a lot less.
Okay, I don't mind paying the $300, but that was kind of a turnoff. I would expect, say, well, here's our living trust brochure. Look at that and make an appointment. You know what I mean?
Well, the problem with I'm not a big fan when they start talking about $300 an hour or $400 or whatever it might be. The problem is I want to know, well, how many hours then? I mean, if it's $300 an hour and it's only good.
I would think that living trust would be from your brochure. It looks to me like it's what it involves as far as cost.
A revocable living trust. When you look at and I'll give you some guidelines here that may be helpful, Bill. If you've got a revocable living trust.
At the same time, Hank, would it be in our interest to also do up a will?
In fact, what's going to happen with the revocable trust is it directs everything as a part of the package is what you're going to get when you do a revocable living trust with a good estate planning attorney. It's going to include the trust. It's going to include a will, what's known as a pour-over will. It's going to include a power of attorney for health care, a power of attorney for assets. It's also going to include a living will. You're going to get 5 documents. So for a couple, that would be, you can each have a trust, or we could have one trust and then each have their own documents on the other side. But basically, that whole package is included. And instead of an hourly rate where they say, well, it's going to be this much an hour and it could be open-ended, most of the better estate planning attorneys I know that I work with, they'll give you a set price. And it's important to do that because you can look anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 in cost to do the same work. So I've got, like I said, I work with some attorneys that are going to be on the lower end of that. Very good quality attorneys, but the fees are going to keep you in a more reasonable place.
Okay. See, I'm 79. She's 78.
Okay.
So revocable, we could add later or whatever, couldn't we?
Revocable living trust allows you to change it anytime you want. Yes.
Okay. So there's no divorce involved. It's just a matter, I got children and grandchildren up there, and we got them down here. So I guess I like snow better, and she likes sunshine.
Well, hopefully you visit frequently.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I got your office number, so in the next few months, you're out of Franklin, aren't you?
Yes, sir, sure am. And I have a lot of folks over in the Cookeville area. They come over to see me all the time.
Okay, so in that time period, I'll make an appointment, and I hope to see you then. Thank you very much.
That would be great. Thanks for the call, Bill. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, we're going to get another slide up. I'm going to jump right out of estate planning. By the way, I've got Russ coming on in a few weeks, and we're going to get into estate planning more. We're going to talk about documents and costs and some of the other things. And I'm going to have Dr. Friday back on a tax show here coming up soon as well. But today, we're going to be talking about inflation is the next thing. So let's show this slide, retirement income concerns. And we're talking about, again, making money last and what happens. Now take a look at this chart. What it's showing on the left is years from now. So if you look out, it's saying hypothetically, if you had $1,000 today, how much would it buy in the future? If you had a 4% inflation rate, now today it's closer to 2, so we can look at that as well. You look out 10 years, $1,000 worth about $820. You look out 20 years, it's worth about $673 as far as its spending power. And if you look at a 4% rate over 20 years, you would be half. In other words, that $1,000 would only buy about half as much, so you're worth about half as much in that time frame. We think inflation on average is going to be, we think it's low now. We think it's been high in the past. If you look over the last 40 years, the average is actually about 4%. In planning, when I work up plans for people, it's about 3% is what we use. So you could split the difference somewhere in between there, and you're going to be looking again $1,000 in 20 years, somewhere worth about $500 to $550 at that time. That's the impact of inflation. Now think about that. That's why we need to stay ahead of what we're making on our money. 7 steps to retirement security. Here we look at them. Develop a retirement plan. That's 1. 2, maximize your Social Security benefits. 3, and this is one of the things I'm seeing more and more people do, which is considering employment after retirement. People are working longer. Now, they may retire from one job that they hate and take on another job that they enjoy more. It depends on the individual, but this is important. Considering employment after retirement may be, or is increasingly becoming important for many people. Protect your savings from inflation. How do you do that when you look at the numbers and everything I've shown you? There are ways, and I'm going to get into that, about how you can blend together market portfolios safely with safe investments, okay? Now, for some people that come in to see me, they don't want anything to do with the market, and I'll show them how to still be able to stay ahead of inflation and taxes. All right, so for those that are comfortable in the market, then we can go all market if that's what you want, and I can show you how to safely do that to reduce volatility, and that's the key, is tightening up that volatility while we're still getting the desired rate of return. Protect our savings from inflation. That's so important. Of course, secure guaranteed retirement income. This is the other part. If you've got a foundation there, not just Social Security, but another guaranteed source, whether it's a pension or you create one through an annuitization of some sort, that's another way that you can help increase your success in retirement. Plan for long-term medical costs. This is another that can surprise people, and unfortunately, this is one of those areas. Planning for it doesn't mean that it has to cost an arm and a leg. You can, in fact, do that very economically. And then, of course, using your home equity wisely, understanding it may be the last resort, but understanding how that might come into play at some points. Now, let's take a look at the next chart, which is charts. I'll get it out. The next slide. Typical sources of income during retirement. All right, what we see here, Social Security makes up about 40%. The source for this, by the way, is Social Security Administration and AARP. So they're saying Social Security makes up about 40% of income during retirement. Retirement savings makes up about 30%, 22% from wages, and other 8%, okay, which could be from family or any number of things. All right. So that's what we're looking at then again. Social Security 40%, wages 22%, retirement savings, and this is the big one, 30%. For some, they may not have the wages, and it may be all Social Security and retirement savings, or maybe they're fortunate and have a pension, and that helps, and it's going to be the three things typically: Social Security, retirement savings, and that pension. Now, one of the things, I've talked about Social Security many times. I'm just going to touch on this briefly just to make the point about that income piece of the puzzle. So benefit of waiting to claim your Social Security is our next slide. Social Security benefit of $1,800 a month, if that's what you were going to get at your full retirement age between, say, 66 and 67. If you take at age 62, you're only going to get $1,350, right? That's a 25% reduction. The other is if you wait till age 70, all right, and right, people are living longer. Look at your own health, look at your own family situation. Did mom and dad live a long life? How about siblings, that kind of thing? Is it likely you will? This would be a big concern then, or consideration. Is there a big age difference between you and your spouse, and you're the big wage earner, where your spouse is going to get get the bigger check if you predecease? There's another reason to wait to age 70. And as you can see, the difference there, $2,400 a month, a 32% increase by waiting. All right. One of the things that it comes to with retirement is risk. All right. And one of the biggest risks in retirement, the number one risk in retirement, in fact, is longevity risk. It's hands down the number one risk in retirement. Why? And it's not because it's not just a risk, it is a multiplier of risk. In other words, if you think about risk like market risk as an example, the longer we live, the more susceptible we are to the market's ups and downs. Withdrawal rates of return, okay? If we're taking out 4 or 5%, the longer we live, the more impactful that is, the more likely we would run out of money if we're taking larger distributions over a longer period of time. Sequence of returns risk, as I showed in the earlier example from Tony Robbins' book, right? Person ran out of money in 20 years. If you live 25 or 30 years, that's 5 or 10 years where you're not going to have any money. You're going to be dependent on Social Security alone, maybe having to sell everything. It's not the lifestyle that we would want to have for you, right? Sequence of returns risk is where that comes in, and the longer you live, the more that impactful that might be. Long-term care risk, mortality risk, inflation risk, all of these are made greater or multiplied by the longer we live. So we don't want to, it doesn't mean we should plan to die early. What it means is that we need to understand that risk and understand how we can, in fact, overcome that risk. And I'm going to show you how to do that as soon as we return. We're going to talk about how to blend these asset categories together and try to eliminate some of the myths that are out there from these different places that can be so confusing. All right, we're going to get to the truth of it. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.